Tom was an ordinary man with an ordinary job. He worked as a repair worker in a human colony that was built on the edge of alien space. Life for him was simple. He fixed machines, cleaned engines, and sometimes traveled to nearby stations to help with maintenance. He was not a soldier, not a leader, and not a hero. He only wanted quiet work and a simple life. One day, Tom was sent to a new section of the colony. The colony had recently expanded, and engineers had connected new halls and domes to the main base. His task was small. He only needed to check a broken signal tower and report if parts were missing. Tom carried his small tool bag, a translator device, and a bottle of water. He thought it would take less than an hour. The new section of the colony was strange. The walls were not human-made. They were built from smooth stone and shining crystals. Humans had only discovered this structure a month ago. No one knew who built it, but the leaders decided to study it. The place looked like a giant palace. Wide doors opened into long halls, and strange glowing symbols were carved into the walls. Tom walked slowly, looking around. His boots echoed in the silent hall. He could hear a faint music in the distance. At first, he thought it was only a machine sound. But as he walked closer, the music grew louder and warmer, almost like singing. Tom felt curious. The signal tower could wait for a few minutes. He wanted to see what was inside. He followed the sound until he reached a huge golden door. It was carved with spiral patterns that seemed to shine on their own. The door was half open, and light spilled out into the hall. Tom stepped forward. His translator device blinked, showing strange signals, but Tom ignored it. He thought it was only interference from the walls. When he pushed the door open, he froze. Inside the hall, hundreds of aliens stood in rows. They were tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered in colors of blue, green, and silver. They wore long robes decorated with glowing threads. The air was filled with the scent of flowers and the sound of soft drums. At the far end of the hall stood a raised platform covered in silk banners. Tom stepped back, thinking he had made a mistake. This was not a place for him. He was only a worker, and this looked like a great ceremony. But before he could leave, one of the aliens noticed him. The alien's eyes widened, and he raised his hands in joy. A wave of voices filled the hall. The crowd began to whisper and cheer. Tom looked around nervously. He touched his translator device, but the words it gave him were broken and confusing. Phrases like chosen arrival and path complete flashed across the small screen. Tom did not understand what they meant. Two aliens approached him. They were tall and graceful, wearing silver masks. They bowed deeply, then gestured for him to follow. Tom tried to speak. "Sorry, I think I am in the wrong place. I am only here to check equipment." But his words were not fully translated. The aliens only smiled and gently took his arm. The crowd parted as Tom was led forward. Every step he took was followed by cheers and claps. Some aliens threw petals of glowing flowers into the air. Tom felt heat rising in his face. He wanted to explain, but the sound of the crowd was too loud. His voice was lost. On the platform at the far end, Tom saw a figure waiting. She was taller than most of the others, dressed in silver robes that sparkled like stars. A crown of crystals rested on her head. Her eyes glowed softly, and she stood still with calm dignity. The music rose higher, drums and flutes blending together. Tom realized with shock that this was not a simple gathering. This was a wedding. The aliens placed him beside the tall figure. The crowd grew silent. An elder with golden robes stepped forward, carrying a glowing crystal. He spoke in a deep voice that echoed across the hall. Tom caught only a few translated words: union, destiny, bridge between. Tom's heart pounded. He raised his hand to protest, but the elder lifted the crystal high. The bride lowered her head respectfully. The elder gestured for Tom to place his hand on the crystal. Tom hesitated. He did not want to insult them, and he thought maybe it was only a greeting ritual. Slowly, he raised his hand and touched the crystal. The moment his skin met the glowing surface, a wave of warmth ran through his body. The crystal pulsed with light. The crowd erupted in cheers. The bride lifted her eyes and looked directly at him. Tom felt a strange connection, as if a part of his thoughts was no longer his alone. He pulled his hand back quickly, startled. The elder smiled and raised the crystal higher. The music began again, louder than before. Petals filled the air. The aliens clapped and sang in joy. Tom stood frozen, confused, and frightened. He whispered to himself, "What did I just do?" But no one answered. The ceremony continued, and Tom realized he had just stepped into something far greater than he understood. What he thought was a wrong turn into a hall of music was actually the first step into a story that would change not only his life but the future of two worlds. The hall was still filled with music and cheering voices. Tom stood near the tall figure in silver robes, not knowing what to do. His hands shook slightly, and his mind raced with questions. Why was everyone looking at him? Why did the crystal make his skin feel warm? Why were the aliens so happy about his presence? The bride turned her head slowly and studied him with calm eyes. Her expression was not angry, not surprised, but strangely peaceful, as if she had expected him. Tom shifted his weight from one foot to another. He wanted to step back and explain that he had only come for work, but the aliens around him closed the space, forming a circle of honor. The elder raised his arms and spoke again in the alien tongue. The translator on Tom's belt struggled to follow, flashing broken words across its screen. Tom saw fragments like "arrival complete" and "bond fulfilled." His throat grew dry. He whispered under his breath, "This is wrong. I should not be here." Two young aliens walked up with golden bowls filled with glowing water. They bowed and held the bowls in front of Tom and the bride. The elder gestured for them to drink. Tom hesitated. He looked at the crowd. Hundreds of eyes watched him, waiting for his move. He felt trapped. Not wanting to offend, Tom lifted the bowl carefully and touched it to his lips. The liquid tasted sweet and cool, almost like fruit juice. The bride drank from her bowl as well. The crowd cheered again, louder than before. Tom put the bowl down, feeling the weight of their expectation pressing on him. The bride took one step closer. She raised her hand slowly, offering it to him. Tom looked down at her slender fingers. Her hand glowed faintly, as if energy ran beneath her skin. He swallowed hard. This was more than a greeting. This was part of the wedding ritual. "Wait," Tom said, his voice low and desperate. "I am not the groom. I do not belong here." But the translator did not give the right message. The device flickered and translated his words into something very different: "I accept the bond." The crowd erupted with joy. The music rose again. Drums and flutes filled the hall. Tom's eyes widened in horror. He tried to correct himself, but the voices around him drowned him out. Flowers rained from above, and the aliens clapped their hands in rhythm. The bride reached forward, gently taking his hand in hers. Her touch was warm and steady. She looked into his eyes with a calm strength that made him freeze. For the first time, Tom sensed her emotions faintly, as if they whispered inside his mind. She felt kindness. She felt certainty. She did not see him as a mistake. She saw him as destiny. The elder spoke again, and Tom caught more fragments from the translator: "Union complete. Bond eternal. Witness the path of two worlds." Tom's heart sank. He wanted to run. His legs tensed, but the circle of aliens around him was too tight. Even if he broke through, he would be seen as insulting their most sacred tradition. He forced himself to breathe slowly, trying not to show panic. The ceremony continued. Musicians lined the hall with long flutes and shining drums. Dancers in silver and green robes moved in circles, their steps slow and graceful. The air filled with the sweet scent of glowing petals. The bride stood beside him silently, her hands still linked with his. The connection between them pulsed stronger with each passing moment. Tom remembered the signal tower he was supposed to check. He thought of the quiet job he had left behind. How had he gone from carrying a bag of tools to standing in front of an alien royal family as their new groom? It felt unreal, yet the pressure of her hand and the roar of the crowd reminded him that it was very real. After the music ended, the elder spoke again and lifted the crystal once more. He placed it between Tom and the bride, and both were asked to touch it again. Tom tried to pull back, but the crowd leaned forward with expectation. The bride looked at him, her eyes soft, as if encouraging him to follow through. With trembling fingers, he touched the crystal again. A wave of energy rushed through him, stronger than before. His vision blurred for a second, and then he felt a strange clarity. It was not only warmth now. It was connection. For a brief moment, Tom felt the bride's thoughts. They were calm and welcoming. She did not force him. She did not demand. She only offered quiet acceptance. He felt her belief that he was meant to be here. The elder lowered the crystal and declared something that made the crowd roar in approval. Tom's translator tried its best. Words flickered on the small screen. Groom accepted. Alliance sealed. Tom's mouth opened in shock. His knees felt weak. He whispered again, "No, you do not understand. I am not who you think I am." But the translator betrayed him once more, turning his plea into a phrase that sounded like agreement. The aliens clapped harder. Some shouted his name, though they pronounced it strangely, stretching it into Tum. He stood helpless as the ceremony closed. The musicians played one final song, the dancers bowed, and the petals settled on the floor like tiny glowing stars. The elder stepped forward and placed a golden band around Tom's arm. The band pulsed with light, marking him as the groom. The bride received a matching band, which she wore with grace. When the ritual was finished, the crowd began to leave the hall, still singing and cheering. Some aliens bowed to Tom, others touched their hands to their hearts in respect. He felt dizzy with the attention. He was a worker, not a hero, not a prince. Yet here he stood, wearing the band of a royal groom. The bride remained beside him. She spoke for the first time, her voice soft and melodic. His translator worked harder this time and gave him her words, "You have come as foretold. Do not fear. You are welcome." Tom looked at her with wide eyes. He wanted to answer, but no words came. His mind spun with confusion. He knew only one thing. This was not a mistake they would allow him to walk away from. Tom followed the bride and the elders as they guided him away from the great hall. His heart was still racing. He had not expected any of this. Only an hour ago, he was a worker sent to check a broken tower. Now he wore a golden band on his arm, and hundreds of aliens believed he was their groom. The bride walked with steady steps beside him. Her silver robe moved like flowing water as she passed through the decorated halls. Every alien they met bowed to her and then to him. Tom felt the weight of every bow pressing on his shoulders. He wanted to shout that it was a mistake, but the translator would only twist his words again. He stayed silent, trying to gather his thoughts. They entered a smaller chamber filled with soft light. The walls glowed faintly with crystal patterns, and the air was warm with the scent of flowers. In the center of the chamber stood a tall pedestal holding the same glowing crystal from the ceremony. Around it were seats, where elders and high officials gathered quietly. One of the elders spoke, his voice deep and steady. The translator gave Tom broken words, "Final bond, life shared, eternal witness." Tom understood enough to know this was not over. The earlier ritual was only the beginning. Something stronger was about to happen. The bride turned to him and spoke gently. Her voice carried a strange comfort. The translator worked harder this time and gave him her words more clearly. Do not be afraid. The crystal does not harm. It binds. It is our way. Tom frowned. Bind what? He asked. Her eyes held his, calm and certain. Bind our lives together. His chest tightened. He stepped back. No. That cannot happen. I am not supposed to be here. But the elders did not hear the refusal. The translator twisted his words again, and the chamber filled with approving nods. Tom's stomach sank. He wanted to run, but the door was guarded. Every path out was blocked. The elder lifted the crystal from the pedestal. It shone brighter than before, its light filling the chamber with soft gold. He placed it between Tom and the bride. The crowd fell silent, waiting. Tom shook his head. He whispered to himself, if I touch it again, what will happen to me? The bride slowly raised her hand and placed it on the crystal. She did not push him, she did not force him, but her eyes asked him silently to do the same. Tom felt torn. Refusing could bring anger or dishonor. Accepting would trap him in something he did not understand. He looked at the circle of elders. Every pair of eyes shone with hope and belief. He looked at the bride. Her calm expression was not of pride but of patience. Slowly, with trembling fingers, Tom reached out and touched the glowing surface. The crystal pulsed with light. A wave of energy rushed through his body. His knees nearly gave way, but he stood firm. The warmth spread from his hand to his chest, then to his head. Suddenly, he felt a new presence inside his mind. It was not frightening. It was soft, gentle, and steady. He realized it was the bride. Her thoughts brushed against his own like a whisper carried by wind. He felt her calmness, her strength, and her kindness. She was not angry with him. She was not confused. She accepted him fully. Tom gasped, pulling his hand back, but the presence did not leave. It lingered faintly, like a quiet echo in the back of his mind. He looked at her in shock. She lowered her head slightly, acknowledging the bond. The elder lifted his arms and spoke loudly. The translator gave Tom broken fragments, bond sealed, no separation, path eternal. The elders around the chamber bowed deeply. Some whispered blessings. Tom pressed a hand to his chest, breathing hard. He felt the faint link still there. It was not strong, but it was real. He could sense her emotions if he focused. She was calm, but beneath the calmness, he felt a small sadness. She knew he was afraid. After the ritual, the crystal dimmed and was placed back on the pedestal. The bride turned to him once more. It is done. You are bound to me now. Our lives are joined. Your strength is my strength. My life is your life. Tom's throat tightened. He wanted to argue, to tell her this was wrong, but when he opened his mouth, no sound came. The translator gave only the simple phrase, I understand. The elders began to leave the chamber, bowing to both of them before stepping away. Guards followed, leaving Tom and the bride alone. The chamber grew quiet, the only sound the soft hum of the crystal. Tom turned to her at last. Listen. I never meant for this. I only came to check a signal tower. I am not a chosen groom. I am only a worker. You must believe me. This time the translator carried his words more clearly, though not perfectly. She tilted her head, listening. Then she answered softly. The bond does not lie. The crystal chooses. You touched it? That means you are meant to be here. Tom rubbed his forehead, frustrated. I touched it because I did not want to insult your people. I thought it was just a greeting. I did not know it was forever. Her eyes showed understanding. Perhaps you did not know. But fate has no accidents. You are here, and the bond is real. Tom paced the chamber, his hands shaking. He felt trapped. Yet when he looked at her again, he felt that same calmness brushing against his mind. It steadied him for a moment. He wondered if the bond worked both ways, if she could feel his fear as well. The bride stepped closer. You fear this. I feel it. But I do not wish to harm you. I wish only peace. Together, we will find the path. Tom stopped moving. He met her gaze. For the first time since entering the hall, he believed she was not his enemy. She was not trying to trap him for her own gain. She truly believed this was destiny. Still, Tom could not accept it. He whispered, I need time. I need to think. She nodded. Time will come. But the bond is already written. Tom sat on one of the seats, his mind heavy with confusion. He was a worker who had stumbled into a wedding. Now, through a ritual he barely understood, his life was tied to a royal bride. He felt fear, but also a strange sense of responsibility. He touched the golden band on his arm. It pulsed faintly with the same rhythm as his heartbeat. He wondered if it was pulsing with hers as well. The thought unsettled him. As the chamber doors opened again, and servants arrived with food and gifts, Tom realized the truth. There was no easy way out. He was bound, and his every step from now on would carry the weight of this bond. The binding ritual had changed everything. Tom sat in the chamber with the golden band glowing faintly around his arm. Servants placed bowls of fruit, cups of sweet water, and plates of warm bread on the table before him. He barely touched the food. His mind was spinning. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt the faint presence of the bride in his thoughts. It was like a quiet voice that did not speak but simply existed. It was calm and steady, but it reminded him that he was not alone anymore. The bride sat across from him. She ate little, only tasting a few pieces of fruit. Her eyes remained on him most of the time. She was not harsh. She was not impatient. She was waiting, giving him space. Tom felt uneasy under her gaze, but he also sensed no cruelty in it. Finally, he broke the silence. I need answers. You must explain what this really means. I cannot understand only broken words from a translator. She nodded slowly. The bond is a joining of life. It is not only ceremony. It is spirit and path. My people believe the crystal does not make mistakes. If two touch it together, it means they are chosen to share life. No one can break it without destroying both. Tom's stomach twisted. He leaned forward, his hands gripping the edge of the table. Are you saying I can never return home? Never leave? Her expression softened. You can live where you choose, but the bond will remain. You will feel me. I will feel you. Our lives are tied. If one is hurt, the other will know. If one falls, the other may fall too. This is the way of the bond. Tom closed his eyes, breathing hard. The weight of her words pressed down on him. He had walked through a door out of curiosity. He had touched a crystal out of politeness. Now his entire future was tied to someone he had just met. He felt anger rising inside him, but the presence of her calm emotions in his mind softened it. He hated that the bond itself was pulling him away from anger, shaping how he felt. He stood up suddenly, pushing the chair back. This is wrong. I did not choose this. I did not know what it meant. His voice shook with frustration. The translator gave his words clearly enough, and she lowered her head. For the first time, Tom felt sadness in her presence. It struck him like a heavy wave, and he knew it came from her heart. She whispered, I understand. You did not choose. But the bond is real. My people believe fate has chosen in your place. Tom paced the chamber. My people do not believe in fate. We believe in choice. I am not a prince. I am not a hero. I am just a worker. I repair machines. That is all. The bride lifted her eyes. You say you are not a hero, yet you stepped forward with courage. You touched the crystal when others might have fled. You drank the water with respect. You stood in front of my people without fear in your face. That is strength. Tom shook his head. That was not courage. That was confusion. She smiled faintly, the first smile he had seen from her. Sometimes confusion leads to truth. Her words quieted him. He sat back down slowly, burying his face in his hands. The room was silent for a long time. Only the hum of the crystal and the faint echo of distant music reached his ears. After some time, the elder who had led the ritual entered the chamber. He bowed deeply to both of them before speaking. The translator flickered to life. The bond is made. The groom is accepted. The bride is honored. From this day, the two are one. The path of peace between our people is strong. Tom looked up sharply. Peace between our people? What does that mean? The elder's voice was calm. Your union is not only for two hearts. It is for two worlds. Humans and our kind have long walked separate paths. This marriage is seen as a bridge. It means alliance. It means trust. Tom's heart sank deeper. He was not only a groom. He was a symbol. If he broke this bond, it would not just hurt one bride. It would insult her entire people. It could even cause anger or conflict between species. He pressed his hand to his forehead, trying to think. The elder continued, your people may not yet know, but soon they will. They will see that one of their own has joined with us. They will see that peace is possible. Tom felt the weight of 1,000 lives on his shoulders. He had never wanted power. He had never wanted politics. Yet now every choice he made could affect more than himself. When the elder left, Tom sat in silence again. The bride spoke gently. I know you are afraid. I know you did not expect this. But you are here now. You cannot undo it. You can only choose how to walk forward. You can walk with anger, or you can walk with hope. Tom lifted his eyes to her. For the first time, he looked past her crown and silver robe. He saw her as a person, not just a figure in a ceremony. Her eyes carried patience, but also loneliness. She had accepted this bond as much as he had, but she too had no real choice. She was bound by duty, by tradition, just as much as he was. Tom realized she was not his enemy. She was another soul caught in the same net of fate. That thought softened his heart. He sighed heavily. If I cannot leave, then I must learn. But you must promise me one thing. Do not treat me as a symbol. Treat me as a person. I am not only a groom for your people. I am Tom. Her eyes shone faintly. She placed her hand over her chest. Then I will see you as Tom. And you will see me not only as bride, but as Lyra. For the first time, he heard her name. It echoed in his thoughts through the bond, soft and steady. Lyra. The sound of it felt strange yet comforting. Tom leaned back in his chair, exhausted but calmer. He still felt trapped, but he no longer felt entirely alone. He knew he would not escape the bond. But maybe, just maybe, he could survive it. Tom woke the next morning in a chamber that felt more like a palace than a room. The walls glowed faintly with soft light. The air smelled of flowers, and the sound of running water came from a fountain in the corner. A bed with silken sheets had been prepared for him, though he had barely slept. His mind had been too busy with thoughts of the bond, of the golden band on his arm, and of the eyes of Lyra, the bride who was now tied to him. When he opened his eyes, he felt something unusual. A faint touch of calmness pressed gently in his mind. It was not his own feeling. It was Lyra's. Through the bond, her emotions brushed against him. She was awake too, somewhere nearby, and her presence was steady like the rhythm of waves. Tom sat up, rubbing his face with both hands. "This is not my life," he whispered. "I was not made for this." Before he could gather his thoughts further, a servant entered the chamber and bowed deeply. "The council calls for you," the translator reported. "The elders wish to speak with the groom and the bride." Tom sighed, dressed himself quickly, and followed the servant. Lyra was already waiting in the corridor, wearing another silver robe. She greeted him with a small nod, her calmness touching his thoughts again. Together, they walked into a tall hall where the council of elders sat in a circle. The eldest among them rose. His voice was firm, and the translator carried his words clearly this time. "The bond has been made. The path of alliance has begun. But the bond is not only a ritual. It is a test. Both must prove the truth of their union. Both must show they are ready to carry the burden." Tom frowned. "A test? What do you mean?" The elder explained. "Through the bond, your thoughts and emotions can be shared. It will grow stronger each day. If you resist it, the bond will weaken and bring pain. If you accept it, the bond will strengthen and bring harmony. You must learn to walk as one." Tom's heart sank. He barely understood his own feelings. Now he was expected to balance someone else's too. The elder continued. "The first test is trust. Today you will walk together in the gardens of reflection. There, you will speak, and you will listen. Only then will the bond show its true strength." Lyra bowed her head in acceptance. Tom hesitated, then nodded slowly. He had no choice. They were led outside into a vast garden surrounded by crystal towers. The ground was covered in glowing flowers that shifted color in the sunlight. Streams of water ran through carved channels, and birds with shimmering wings flew above. It was beautiful, but Tom's heart was heavy. They walked side by side along a stone path. For a long time, neither spoke. Tom felt her quiet presence in his mind. It was not intrusive, but it reminded him that privacy no longer belonged fully to him. Finally, he broke the silence. "You can feel my fear, can't you?" "Yes," she answered softly. "I feel your fear. I also feel your anger." Tom looked down at the ground. "I did not want this. My life was simple. I had no power, no duty, no burden. I fixed machines and lived quietly. Now I am expected to be a symbol of peace for two worlds. Do you know how heavy that feels?" Lyra turned to him, her eyes calm. "I know. Because I feel it in you. And you must know my burden too. I was raised to be a bride of destiny. I did not choose this either. Yet I accept it, because my people need it." Her sadness touched him through the bond, and for a moment he felt it as if it were his own. His steps slowed. "You did not want this either." She shook her head. "No, I dreamed of freedom once. To walk the stars on my own path. But my path was chosen long before this day. I accepted it long ago." Tom stopped walking. "So we are both trapped?" "Yes," she said. "But perhaps two trapped souls can still find strength together." Her words made him quiet. The bond pulsed faintly between them, and he realized she was not lying. She was as much a prisoner of duty as he was. They continued walking until they reached a pool of water in the center of the garden. The water reflected the sky like a mirror. Around the pool, carvings of past rulers stood in silent watch. Lyra knelt by the water and placed her hand on the surface. Ripples spread across the reflection. The elders call this the pool of truth. They say water does not lie. It shows what is hidden in the heart. Tom knelt beside her, unsure. "And what does it show now?" "Look," she whispered. Tom leaned closer. The water rippled again, and for a moment he saw not only his face but hers beside it. Then the image changed. He saw flashes of his memories, his childhood, his first work on the colony, his quiet days repairing machines. The images were clear and bright. Then he saw her memories too. A young girl learning the language of elders, standing before teachers, bowing to the crown placed on her head. He felt her loneliness and duty as if they were his own. He pulled back, breathing hard. That is too much. I do not want my life open like that. She lifted her hand from the water, and the images faded. This is what the bond does. It shows truth. We cannot hide from each other. Tom sat silently, staring at the pool. He hated the feeling of being exposed, but he also understood that she was exposed too. Neither of them could hide anymore. Finally, he spoke. If this is what it means, then I must try. Not for your people, not for the council, but because if I resist, it will destroy us both. Lyra's eyes softened. Yes. We must walk together, not apart. They stood again and began walking back to the hall. Tom still felt fear and confusion, but now he also felt a strange respect for her. She had carried this duty all her life, and now she carried his fear as well. He realized he could not treat her as an enemy. She was his partner, whether he had chosen her or not. When they returned to the council, the elder asked, "What truth did the garden reveal?" Tom hesitated, then answered clearly. That we are both bound, not only by ritual but by the weight of duty. If we fight it, we both suffer. If we walk together, we may endure. The elder nodded with approval. Then the first test is passed. The bond holds. Tom lowered his eyes. The test was not victory for him. It was only the beginning of a struggle that would not end soon. Yet deep inside, he knew he had taken the first step. The sun rose over the alien city, casting soft golden light on the crystal towers. Tom stood on the balcony of his chamber, staring out at the bustling streets below. Life went on as usual for everyone else, but for him, nothing was normal anymore. He touched the golden band on his arm, feeling the faint pulse of the bond. It reminded him of Lyra, of the ceremony, and of the weight that had been placed upon his shoulders. He did not want this life. He had not chosen it. Yet leaving was no longer simple. The elders had made it clear that the bond could not be broken without great consequences. His own people would see him differently if he returned. The aliens who had accepted him as groom would be dishonored. Tom felt trapped between two worlds, unsure of where he belonged. Lyra appeared at the balcony doorway. She stood quietly, letting him speak first. He sighed and rubbed his face. I keep thinking about going back to my life. To work on machines, to eat quietly, to sleep without worrying about everyone else's expectations. She stepped closer. You cannot go back. Not completely. The bond has tied us together. You will feel me, and I will feel you. That is how it is now. Tom shook his head. I do not even know how to be part of your world. I do not understand your customs. I do not speak your language well enough. I am a stranger here. Lyra placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. And yet you are here. You have faced the ceremony, the crystal, the council. You have passed the first test. That shows something about you. Even if you do not believe it, the bond is not only my gift to you. It is your choice to accept it. Tom looked at her hand and then at her calm eyes. He wanted to argue, to run, to reject everything that had happened. But he could feel her presence inside his mind again, soft and steady. Her trust, her patience, her understanding. It was not forcing him, but it was asking him to consider. He took a deep breath. What if I fail? What if I cannot do what your people expect of me? What if I make a mistake? Lyra smiled faintly. Then we learn together. The bond is not about perfection. It is about connection, understanding, and trust. You do not have to carry this alone. Tom stared out at the city again, thinking about the bridges of crystal, the flying birds, and the streets filled with glowing flowers. He thought about his life on the human colony, simple and quiet, and he realized that part of him could never return. The bond had changed something inside him. It had made him part of something larger, whether he liked it or not. He turned to Lyra. I have to make a choice. I cannot pretend that I am free to go back entirely. I also cannot ignore this. I will try. Not because I want to be Groom, not because I want to be a hero, but because it is the right thing to do. For both of us. Lyra's eyes softened, and a faint smile touched her lips. That is all I ask. The choice is yours. Not the elders, not my people's. Yours. For the first time, Tom felt a sense of calm. The decision did not make his life simple. The responsibilities were still heavy, and the challenges ahead would be many. But he felt in his heart that he was no longer a victim of circumstance. He was a participant. He could choose how to face this life. The day passed with the elders calling them to meetings, teaching them customs, and explaining expectations. Tom listened carefully, asked questions, and tried to understand. Every time he felt frustrated or overwhelmed, Lyra was there, steadying his thoughts through the bond. He began to feel that she was not only a guide but a partner. Someone who would share his burdens, not take them from him, but walk beside him through the challenges. By evening, the council allowed them to walk alone in the city. Tom had not realized how beautiful the city was. Crystal towers shimmered in the sunset, and streams of glowing water ran through the streets. People of all colors and shapes moved around, smiling, talking, and bowing respectfully to the couple. Tom realized that despite the strangeness, this world was alive and vibrant. Lyra held his hand as they walked. You are part of this world now, she said gently. Even if you did not choose it, you belong here. The bond is a bridge, not a cage. You decide what it will be. Tom squeezed her hand back. He felt her warmth, her patience, and her trust flowing through the bond. I will try, he said quietly. I will try to be someone who deserves this. Not for them, but for you. And maybe, in time, I can even help build the bridge they expect. She looked at him with a soft smile. That is all I ask. It is enough. As they walked through the streets, Tom noticed how people greeted them. Some bowed deeply, some offered flowers, some simply smiled. He began to understand that his presence carried meaning beyond himself. He felt the weight of responsibility, but it was no longer crushing. It was a challenge he could meet, step by step. That night, they returned to their chambers. Tom lay on the bed, staring at the glowing ceiling. The city lights shimmered through the windows. He felt the band on his arm pulse gently, as if reminding him of the bond and his choice. Lyra sat beside him quietly. She did not speak, only offered her presence. Tom reached out, touching her hand through the bond. For the first time, he felt not fear, not confusion, but connection. He realized that accepting the bond was not about giving up his life. It was about expanding it. He could still be himself. He could still hold on to who he was. But now he would share that with someone else. Someone who would understand, guide, and walk with him. He closed his eyes and let himself rest. The decision was made. He would stay. He would try. He would face the unknown with Lyra by his side. The golden band was no longer a symbol of fear. It was a reminder of choice, of connection, and of the new path he would walk. For the first time since stumbling into the alien hall, Tom felt a small spark of hope. He had a long journey ahead, filled with unknown challenges. But he also had a partner, a bond, and a purpose. He was no longer just a human who wandered by accident. He was a groom, a bridge, and a participant in a story far greater than himself. The morning sun reflected on the crystal towers, painting the city with shades of gold and silver. Tom stood on the balcony of their chamber, feeling the gentle warmth of the day. His hand rested on the golden band that marked him as Lyra's groom. The bond was no longer a mystery or a burden. It had become a quiet presence, guiding him, reminding him, and connecting him to someone who had become more than a stranger. Lyra appeared beside him, her silver robe catching the sunlight. She smiled softly, and for a moment, Tom felt calm. They did not need words to speak. The bond carried their thoughts and emotions, and he felt her pride and hope flowing gently toward him. "Are you ready for today?" she asked, her voice calm. Tom nodded. "I think so. I have to learn more. I have to understand your people better. But I also feel stronger, somehow. Not alone." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "That is the gift of the bond. You are never alone now. And it grows stronger each day as trust and understanding grow." Their first task of the day was to attend a council meeting with the elders. Tom had spent the past days learning the customs, the language, and the responsibilities that came with his position. Today, he would speak in front of them for the first time, representing both himself and humanity. His palms were sweaty, but Lyra's calm presence reminded him that he could face it. The chamber was large, with crystal walls that reflected light from floating lanterns. The elders sat in a semicircle, their eyes on the couple. Tom took a deep breath and stepped forward. Lyra followed, walking slightly behind him. One of the elders spoke. "You have spent time learning our ways. Now, speak your thoughts, groom of the bond. Share what you have learned, and what you offer to our people and your own." Tom looked around. The council watched intently, but he no longer felt fear. He felt responsibility. He felt connection. He nodded toward Lyra, who gave him a small encouraging smile. "I came here by accident," he began, his voice steady. "I did not choose to be part of this wedding, and I did not understand the bond at first. But in these days, I have learned that this bond is not only a tradition. It is a path for two people, two species, and two worlds to connect. I cannot undo what has been done, nor would I try. I can only move forward. I will do my best to honor this bond, to understand your people, and to show my people that humans can learn and grow from this experience." The elders nodded slowly, impressed by his honesty and calm speech. One of them spoke again. "The bond is not only a ritual. It is a test of character, courage, and understanding. You have passed it? Your willingness to accept the bond, to learn, and to speak truthfully shows that humanity has wisdom beyond power and strength." Tom bowed slightly, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. Lyra's hand touched his briefly, and the bond pulsed gently, as if acknowledging his courage. After the council meeting, they walked through the city. Tom noticed how people stopped to greet them. They smiled, bowed, and sometimes offered gifts. Children ran forward with glowing flowers, giggling as they placed them in their hands. Tom felt warmth in his chest. He was no longer just a visitor. He was part of this world, and he was beginning to feel that he belonged. Lyra led him to a quiet courtyard filled with fountains and soft light. "These are the gardens of harmony," she explained. "They are a place for reflection and growth. Many come here to find peace and understanding. Today, you can see what it feels like to walk fully in our world." Tom knelt beside a small pool. The water reflected the sky, the towers, and their own images. He looked at himself and then at Lyra. The bond pulsed gently, carrying not only their thoughts but their emotions. He could feel her confidence and patience, and she could feel his honesty and determination. He smiled faintly. "I think I am starting to understand. The bond, it is not a cage. It is a bridge. Lyra nodded. Yes. A bridge of trust, respect, and care. It shows what humans and my people can achieve when we work together. Tom stood, feeling a new sense of purpose. I will walk this path. Not because it is expected of me, but because it is right. Because together, we can make a difference. She smiled. And together, we will. You do not have to carry this alone anymore. The bond will guide us, and our actions will speak for both our worlds. That evening, a feast was held in their honor. Aliens and humans who had arrived for the colony's expansion gathered together. The hall was filled with laughter, music, and conversation. Tom walked beside Lyra, speaking to some of the aliens with the help of his translator. He realized that even in his human form, his kindness and honesty were being understood. Lyra leaned close to him and whispered, "See? You belong here. You can help both our worlds. The bond makes us stronger, but your heart makes the difference." Tom felt a warmth spread through him. For the first time since the accident, he felt proud not because he was chosen, not because of the ceremony, but because he had decided to rise to the challenge. He had chosen to honor the bond, to respect Lyra, and to embrace the responsibility placed upon him. As the feast ended, the crowd cheered for them. Tom and Lyra stood on a raised platform, looking out at the faces filled with hope and trust. He felt the pulse of the bond in his arm. It was steady, warm, and alive. He could feel her hand in his thoughts. She was no longer only a stranger or a bride. She was a partner, a guide, and a friend. He looked at her and spoke softly, "I never imagined my life could be like this. I thought I was only a worker, only a human. But now I know we can do more. Together." She smiled, placing her hand gently on his. "Together, we can build bridges that neither of us could build alone. That is the true gift of the bond." Tom took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his responsibility but also the hope of new possibilities. He had stumbled into a wedding by accident, but he had found purpose, partnership, and a connection that no one could break. The golden band pulsed faintly, a symbol of what he had chosen and what he would continue to protect. He was no longer just a human lost in a strange world. He was a groom, a bridge between worlds, and a person who had chosen courage, connection, and hope. As night fell and the city lights shimmered across the crystal towers, Tom and Lyra stood side by side. The bond pulsed softly, carrying their shared emotions, dreams, and trust. The journey ahead would be long, but they would walk it together, stronger and wiser than before. And in that moment, Tom understood that the human heart capable of curiosity, courage, and love could shape not only one life but the fate of many worlds. The accident that brought him to an alien wedding had become the greatest adventure of his life, and the story of a human who chose connection over fear was only beginning.